Hello and welcome to this year's Autistic Radio Days presentation. It's really lovely that you've been listening to us throughout this whole year, and the way you've commented with affection about what we're doing here. We also are very aware that we are supported entirely by very small donations, hundreds of donations, less than $50, €50, £50. And that keeps us entirely independent, which is a beautiful thing in this day and age. Autistic Association is a bit more than Autistic Radio, because it's a group of autistic people creating a charity out of their own need. We decided on what we needed as a collective group, and then we organised ourselves into a conventional format, a charity. That's grassroots. That's radical. Our main need was the networking of people who otherwise wouldn't find networking happen. There are groups of autistic people who are very adept at creating their support networks. The people we mostly deal with have realised their autism late into their lives, and you need a different format, a different way of getting us together, to communicate together, to enjoy each other's company. And I think designing it for ourselves is the best way forward, and making it happen ourselves is the best way forward. Crucially, what we're here for is each other. Not as a nebulous concept of an autistic sensibility that is an identity that you can put down in some kind of orthodoxy. It's something more about a very wide-ranging groups of experiences coming together to explain and to ourselves. Loneliness and isolation is the real crisis in the age group that I belong to. People who are the generation older, the boomers, and I'm on the tip of Generation X, so that's another group below me, and I can sit between those groups of people and get some kind of understanding of where they're at. And it's not a place where conventional services are at. Every year we exaggerate what we do here at Autistic Radio by making a series of programs that take up 4 hours on 4 days in that really tough time between Christmas and New Year. For many of us taking part here, it's a lonely time because our support networks have closed and many of us are estranged. So what we have here at Autistic Radio is a very gradual opportunity of involving yourself with another group of autistic people on your own terms. And we call that Backstage. Backstage is where we meet up regularly all the year round on the lull in Sunday and in Mondays as a group of autistic people, different people changing. We're not making a podcast, we're just being together. In fact, we spend more time as a group in activities backstage than we do in what's more noticeable through autistic radio. So if you've accustomed yourself to listening to some of what we do, and I know that the things that we put out there are very varied, very serious stuff, very unperformed stuff as well, very natural conversation, which is, I think, valuable in its own way. If though anything from that kind of repertoire, that big spectrum of what we do here, Autistic Radio, has made you want to get a little bit closer to us, then Backstage might be the way to do it. We're here right now on the links that are in our Facebook and on our website, autisticradio.com/backstage. And if you come backstage with us, you can witness what other people are doing without making yourself very obvious. You can text in to a text conversation if you're a speller, or if you're like me, somebody who goes between text and speech. And there's no need to move to any further engagement. I like the concept of lurking personally, because so much time during my life that I've benefited from observing others and getting the sense of a place before I commit to it. That's part of my autistic experience. I think it's part of other people's experience. The need to lurk outside before you wholeheartedly get into something. So the way Backstage works is a very gentle move forward. It's a move forward from just listening to the kind of stuff we do and enjoying that and involving yourself in the conversation, maybe agreeing or disagreeing with what we're doing and what we're saying, because I have to say, I now say different things to when I first started speaking out. I have lots of recordings of me saying things that I don't think I would say any longer. So there's a sense of exploration about autistic radio, but there's also a sense of exploration in our backstage activities when we're just speaking with each other and sharing each other's lives. You could see it as an anti-loneliness project. You could see it as a realization of where you fit into the whole idea of this nebulous concept called Autism project. I know that many of our regular contributors, some of the people you actually hear the voices of rather than people who just join in, who join in without that. I don't want to say that word just, because it's so unimportant, but it's a turn of phrase, isn't it? Nobody should feel that they had to move from anywhere to anywhere else. It should all be on our own terms, and that's what we try to knit into this. So, for me, as we look ahead this next 4 days in that tough time between Christmas and New Year, I hope that you will consider popping in to see what other people say and taking benefit from that in any way that you see fit. Conversation with no orthodoxies, people with a lot of experience of some pretty difficult situations over their lives. I can't reenact Backstage, but there's something that gets a tiny bit closer to it, and that's the 444. We'll be doing one of those later on today at 444, which is 4:44 here in the UK. A joke on the time for me, or a way for me to remember both the name and the time I have to be there. The 444 isn't quite Backstage because the group, the people who are comfortable and have made it that they want to advocate, know that they will be recorded. And other participants come along and they might text anonymously, or they might just listen in to co-feel it, or they might speak out. But until that person's been around us for a while, we tend not to include their words. We tend not to ask permission or include their words. So there's a bit of this that is backstage in lots of ways, but there's a jump and a bit and a missing bit to it. I'm going to play this week's Sunday 444 number 69 because we've been there every Sunday, whatever day Sunday falls on.
Hi there. Every Sunday, a group of autistic people get together and drop in. It's an informal group, but some of the things that people say deserve a bigger audience. So they give us permission for us to put them in an edited reel. And that's what we're here for. Today's edited reel of the conversations that we have about our own autism. Cheers, enjoy.
We speak. Our words, we listen.
We speak. Our words, we listen.
We speak. Our words, we listen.
Wow, is that autistic that even though it's a drop-in, even though people can turn up at any time, we still somehow have it in the back of our heads that we're late if we come after 4:44. It's crazy, isn't it?
And I'm always a little bit late. Wonder if that's autistic. It seems like it wouldn't be. I think it's because I never want to be early and for real life things.
I'm feeling like the Walking Dead today, I'm afraid. So you might have to put up with me. I'm not firing on all cylinders. I slept not at all last night. I was up. I went to bed at half midnight. I was up at 3 a.m. So.
Are you feeling all right, Lucy?
Yeah, I'm okay. I don't like Christmas anyway. Lots of things. It's the anniversary of my mum's death on the 26th, so the day after Christmas Day. And I just don't like the Christmas hype anyway, and I never have done. So I find it a difficult time of year. And hubby's out every day working, singing and coming back, and he doesn't really want to do tinsel and turkey and all that sort of thing. So, it's a bit hard to take. But yeah, I'm a bit stressed out. Family stuff,
Yeah, sorry. It's just a wrestle. You're wrestling with yourself, I find, at this time of the year. Like I should be this way, but I'm not that way.
Yeah, I can get that, Robbie. It's also my dad's anniversary of my dad's death in January. So, like you say, it's a time when everybody else seems to be okay with everything and it's all lights and tinsel. And for me, it's not at all. And also, Teresa, when you say about, whether you feel like you should be wrestling with yourself, I've come to the decision that many moons ago that this is not something I was going to do with any sort of, I don't do Christmas and I never have done, much to the shock of my family sometimes, how utterly unattached to Christmas I am. But I just think for some people it just doesn't work. It's just not something they want, and we do our day the way we want to. And it's good for us. We just do our normal stuff.
Well, baby, that's what we're here for. I'm looking forward to that time between Christmas and New Year when we do radio days. I'm looking forward to this new format where we have 4 hours during the day where people are just available on text, or they can put voice if they want, or they can just lurk. And I just feel that as a group, there's such a positive thing that we're all doing, whilst also explaining the shittiness of some of this. It actually feels kind of Christmassy. That misfits pulling together, lonely people being lonely together in a group, that kind of stuff. I find that touching. I like it. It makes it part of Christmas for me without being a fucking do-gooder.
Part of my struggling back and forth is that I do have a family, and I only knowing that I'm autistic for the shortest time that I have, this is only my second Christmas. Now, of course, there are other similar times when there's this struggle, you know, where even in a family, there's going to be a lot of small talk. And I've stuck to specific rituals because it helps me, because I can just prepare for them. Like, I don't usually decorate the tree until Christmas Eve. I actually like the lights for whatever, you know, pre-Christian reason that people have them, and they are nice in the winter. So I put it up as late as possible so that all through January, which is usually so cold and dark, like so cold when you breathe in, your nose feels like meat in a freezer. You, I like those lights for that, whatever you want to call it, pagan reason. It's good for you. I find I'm just this will be really my first Christmas, because last Christmas my daughter and I just went for lunch on Christmas Eve and to a movie on Christmas Day, because my son and his family really wanted to have their own Christmas. But now my granddaughter said, no, we have to have Christmas Eve. So now it's back on again. And I'm trying to simplify it as much as possible, because I always feel not like a good mother. I'm sure I'm okay, but that's my struggle, especially because last year I didn't need to do it. I want to do it though, because I really missed them. So
18th of December always used to be Keith Richards' birthday for me, but it was the date that my mother had her first fit. And so that whole thing, even though it was 12 years ago, it pulls me down, but not to be a total downer. And probably because I haven't been out so much this year, but I don't know if anyone does Whamageddon. Well, I'm still in on Whamageddon.
what is that?
You must not hear the song Last Christmas by Wham. And I think last year I got done on the first couple of days of December because I went to the village Christmas fair and they were playing it. But so far I've avoided it in shops and on the radio and in general. So I think this is a record for me.
We used to do that as a group thing at work when I did work, where we would all sort of put our names up on the board and everybody had to kind of like tick off the days that they hadn't heard that song. It was quite fun. But to be honest, I don't seek out the music. So it's quite good now because I never hear it.
That's a funny game. I don't know the rules. I like Lucy's rules, but I want to hear your rules. Yeah. And here in North America, I feel like the song you would hear the most, and I haven't heard any this year, is that Mariah Carey song, which they put it through. I don't even know if it's a Christmas song, but I think it is. Serious academic musical people analyzed it, and it's supposed to be a good song, which is kind of weird.
I think Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas for You is it has a feel of a 60s Motown song.
Yeah, like somebody figured out the formula for a good song.
I mean, Christmas, I have the Phil Spector Christmas album somewhere because I have a Phil Spector box set and I have Little Steven's Underground Garage compilation of more sort of punky rock and roll Christmas songs. But I mean, I don't make a point of listening to them.
My favorite ones, and this will go back to that pagan kind of lights in January thing, are without any lyrics, really old Celtic, just with instruments. And they're so sad, but I really like them when I'm cooking.
I'm just going to hijack things quickly for a second because it's just come out that Patience Series 2 starts on Channel 4 on January the 7th, and they've posted a trailer for the new series. It's quite uncomfortable to watch because the new boss is quite dismissive of Patience and even quite insulting. So the overall arc of the series looks like her learning to accept an autistic person. I'll post the link for the trailer in the comments.
Thank you very much. I figured out how I will be able to watch it. I think I have to pay for PBS like a little PBS subscription, I'm pretty sure. But on the PBS note, I'm going to send you all the date when the PBS show Finding Your Roots, the episode with, what's his name, Lindo? Forgetting his first name. I'll be in the credits for doing the some of the genealogical research, which is exciting. But I'm looking forward to Patience the first season. And isn't that the way that you're fine until you get a new boss?
Yeah, it was actually released in the States by PBS on DVD because I don't stream. I generally don't stream. I hate to watch things on a laptop, but I was very pleased to get the DVD. And of course, the original French series as well, Astrid et Raphael, has just ended after 7 series. But I think I still feel, after watching the trailer, I think Patience is quite an important program.
Have you tried to watch Astrid with subtitles?
It's on Channel 4, so it's got subtitles, but I have contacted Channel 4 and the French production company because there are French DVDs, but they don't have English subtitles. And my CSE French is 0. But if they ever released it on DVD or Blu-ray with subtitles, I'd definitely buy it.
I guess I'm lucky because in Canada we study French. Most people don't speak French, but it's just a really good deal France made with England when they changed their colonization ownership of Canada. But then I studied it for 4 years at university, and my ex-husband didn't. He just dated a girl whose father was some kind of a Belgian ambassador. I can read everything, even contracts, but he can speak to anybody.
We're just watching that. I think it's Apple TV, Pluribus, which is the Vince Gilligan thing, the new thing by Vince Gilligan after Breaking Bad. And it is incredibly good. Recommended. You do need a subscription to see it, but my goodness, we're really, really enjoying it. I'm not going to give too much away, but if you pop over to and have a look at the synopsis of the series, it's really, really interesting. It's about hive minds and sort of people coming down from other, like through signals in space, and it's really complicated, but it's a great watch if you're looking for something.
I was thinking, Jules, how would you feel about if I tried to see if we could get Ella Maisie Purvis, who plays Patience, who has autism, trying to get an interview with her?
We are absolutely open to anything that any of our conspirators, instigators, collaborators, foot soldiers in the autistic revolution organize. So you get the inspiration, you make the contact, you tell us what we can do to facilitate follow up, and that's what we're doing collectively. Anybody here listening, I know that some of you are listening in different countries right now, and that might not feel appropriate, but if it's English language based, we're willing to do something with you anywhere you are in the world.
Yeah, I was posting with the anchoress, and she seems reasonably open to doing an interview next year. So I'll leave it till January, and then I'll be in contact with you and see if I can see how to move things forwards on both of those.
You've got to remember, JR, though, that these are pretty heavy contacts you're talking about. These are not Tupney Halfpenny people. These people have careers and images and God knows what to protect them from small groups like us fucking it up for them. So it's really kind of difficult to come across or give people a sense of trust and reliance that they would interview with us here at Autistic Radio when you're talking about somebody at that end of things. They are recording artists.
I have experience with this when I've worked at newspapers and magazines, particularly in the magazines. I threw a lot of parties for people, my favorite, Bill Nighy, but really famous people. And the people themselves are lovely and normal, and it's getting through their PR people, their agents, and then sometimes people associated with the show that you want to talk to. And oddly, I'm awkward, but I leave a good voicemail that somehow has some sense of sincerity in it. That usually then what happens is they try to figure out who you are, who the person leaving the voicemail is, and then somehow it has worked out.
Yeah, the last time I mentioned it to the anchoress, she said she'd be there with bells on. And yeah, she is quite a private person. And I mean, we'll go into it later, but you know, I was thinking that if we contacted through her people and we supplied a list of questions even in advance, I think she'd be reasonably open to it. The worst comes to the worst, she says no, and if you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, look, I have just listened to the expert, Teresa. I completely ask you in every possible way to deal with this through Teresa. Teresa's the person for this, and I will do whatever Teresa tells me to do, and you guys get together because she knows. We in the Autistic Radio family, we throw our skills out there and we grab hold of other people's skills. That's what we do.
I have a feeling that GR has the exact sincerity to have gotten her to say, I don't know who you're talking about exactly, but also when you Google GR, sorry, that seems like I stalk people, but I was looking for something that you mentioned. I wanted to see it, an interview you did, so I saw it. But you seem perfect at it, and all I would do is give you advice if you are up against some person associated with the series or a PR company. But if you're dealing with the person themselves, and you may be talking about two people, I'm not sure, you're perfect for it.
Well, Ella Maisie Purvis, whose patients has done interviews with a woman who had autism, who runs a channel on YouTube. So she has done that. With the anchoress, I mean, I've known her on Facebook for 10 years and we've met a couple of times, and I interact on her Facebook posts. So it would be a familiar voice. But if I say, if we don't ask, we won't find out. And at the end of the day, if I reached out to the anchoress and Ella and they say, no, we won't do that, you know, I'd rather try and rather than think, you know, it would be really good if we could get them and then never having tried.
You know what I just thought of? Maybe one day next year we could try one of those collabs with another podcast. Have you ever listened to one?
This is the only one, really. It's I really don't do anything like that except for on this one. I rarely listen to. I listened to a BBC Sounds thing yesterday because a friend of mine in Germany is a big Laurel and Hardy fan, and there was something about Laurel and Hardy visiting Stan Laurel's sister in 1953 and serving behind the bar in a pub, and I knew he'd like that, so I listened to that. But generally, I don't download, I don't stream or anything.
I love that idea, and I have a feeling it's going to work out.
I mean, I've had friends who say when I approach famous people how well I deal with it, because I've bumped into so many. I mean, Mick Jagger, Bryan Adams, Jude Law, and my friend said I dealt with it really well. But I said the trick is approach quietly, be polite, say what you know. I love your music, I love your films, or whatever, and then just wish them well and shake their hands and walk away.
I want to bring the text in. There's various texts about the series that you were talking about, with and without subtitles. Then when it gets onto this subject, Lucy says, Dave and I have written 3 books and have encountered the gatekeepers. There is always a way round, though. You just have to find it. And yep, she's absolutely right. And GR has actually somehow got through the gatekeepers already, and he's in an appropriate position, isn't he? And Lucy adds to that to say it's part of all musicians' situations, the entourage business. I wrote when Teresa was speaking about how she thought things should go forward, that I agreed with her. I think that's the key to this. GR has the contact and is appropriate for the situation, but I don't feel I am appropriate if it gets to the dealing with PR companies on behalf of Autistic Radio. But Teresa is, and so I would hope that what I've heard from Teresa is that she's willing to step in and take that up for us if that's it. I'd also like to say the ideas that Teresa have about joint productions with people, I'm open to everything. So anybody out there who brings things to us, we'll run with them. We'll run with the ideas and see whether they work. That's it for the moment.
I think Lucy is really good at this too. My concern only is they'll think, why is a Canadian person contacting us? But I know that Lucy is good at this.
Yeah, when I used to work with musicians and things, I worked in a box office, so I would meet a lot of people coming our way, and I've never been fazed by anybody at all. I've kind of got this bit of a shield up when it comes to it. I don't tend to get particularly starstruck, I think the term is about it. They are people, and if you're nice and polite to them, then they're generally nice and polite back to you. So that's the way you do it. And once you've kind of proved yourself, especially if you get a contact and you can kind of keep it to yourself and not share it with people, then the trust level, and then they tell other people that you're trustworthy. So that's kind of how we did it when we did our books, and it worked out very well for us, really.
Yeah, my mother was the same. She went to a lottery thing when they used to do the draws, and with her cousin, and Bradley Walsh was the compare, and my mother's cousin was going mad. Oh, Bradley, blah, 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 blah. And Bradley Walsh turned to my mother and said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Monica." And he said, "Nothing phases you, does it, Monica?" And she also met Steps, who she said they were really nice people. And she met another, I won't name him, at this thing, a very well-known singer. And she told him he was you remember the word we were discussing last week? She told him he was that to his face. So, yeah, there you go. My mother also met Sean Connery once, and that didn't go well for Sean Connery because he was having a go at someone, but there you go.
That is hilarious. That's my second middle name, Monica. That is so good, and why you're good at it. And I agree, you cannot be starstruck. And there must be something very grounded about you, GR, where, they just know you're not one of those people. And Lucy too.
You get these things with when people say, "Oh, so and so's done this" or whatever, and something bad's happened to someone who's famous. And I said, well, you have to remember these people they're human beings. They have the same frailties as we do. They have the same emotions as we do. I mean, some of them may be. I mean, like when I met Mick Jagger, I mean, I'd been a fan for 11 years at the time, and I approached him very quietly. It was in an airport, actually. And I just quietly said, "Excuse me, is this a bad time to ask for an autograph?" Because it was his downtime, because he was there with his son. He was in W.H. Smith's. But you have to remember, I mean, he could have turned around and been nasty. A friend of mine met him in Chicago in 2006. It went really badly for my friend. Mick was telling him to F off, but I was very quiet and I said, "Is this a bad time to ask for an autograph?" And he looked quite surprised and said no. And he signed my passport, "Best wishes, Mick Jagger." And I said, I've been following you for 11 years and I've seen you live, whatever it was, 86 times at the time, and I've seen all the dates on this tour." And he was saying, when he offered his hand and shook my hand and said, "Have a safe journey." And then I went to the toilet and I wept like a baby. And when I got on the plane, he was sat in front of me on the plane. But I'd had my 5 minutes with him and I left him alone. And I mean, he's my musical hero.
That's amazing.
I kind of liked being that person that could be very sort of down to earth with anyone I met. And my dad taught me a lot of that. He always used to say, you know, you shouldn't really ever be starstruck or feel beholden to anyone, that you have to be a certain way around them, just be a human, and that will probably work out okay for you. But I used to make it my job, when I was working within the kind of music business, if I met somebody and they were famous, I made it my sort of habit to always say hello, because that's a good way of just testing the waters a little. I say, oh, hi, you know, really nice to meet you, as they came in and out. But and it actually ended up being that I met some amazing and interesting people and managed to speak to them. It was great.
Tell you a quick story. A friend of mine who's a big Stones fan, his girlfriend, she noticed that Marianne Faithfull's father lived near to her, because apparently he was in the phone book. So she wrote a letter to Marianne's father saying, I really like Marianne Faithfull, and would it be possible that I could meet her? And a letter came back saying, yeah, Marianne's coming round on this date, come round and have tea with us. So my mate's girlfriend went to Marianne Faithfull's father's house and had tea with Marianne Faithfull. Apparently Marianne was a really nice person, actually. Anyway, a couple of months later, Hole were playing at the Shepherd's Bush Empire, and my friend was with his girlfriend watching the celebs going near the stage door, and this car pulls up and out gets Marianne Faithfull. And as she's walking towards the door, she looks into the crowd and she sees my mate's girlfriend, and she says, oh, Lisa, thank goodness you're here. I'll have someone nice to talk to. And she had my mate's girlfriend pulled over the barrier, and they went into the stage door arm in arm, and left my mate standing there like a lemon, and he didn't see his girlfriend till after the gig.
You should write a book.
Some of my Stones friends could write brilliant books. They really could, of encounters. I mean, the guy I was just talking to, his girlfriend Marianne, this guy was really into Motorhead, and he was at so many gigs and meeting up with, because Lemmy again was supposed to have been a really nice guy, and Lemmy called my mate nuisance, and funnily enough, so did Johnny Rotten.
I think you're right.
I had a party for Johnny Rotten, and I've had weird encounters too, but not like you, GR. Like, you really care about the Stones so much. I could see a book.
I think the absolute things about everybody that is part of this group, they've led unusual lives, and they've led unusual lives that express aspects of their autism. I think that's the whole cohesive thing here. You, Teresa, have an incredible story. It's a different book, but it's an interesting one.
Oh, actually, I'm writing a book, but it's not about me. It's a crime novel, and it's entirely scary. It's like you can't eat while you're reading it.
And no doubt it expresses something of you in it as well. No writing gets very far away from the psyche of the person creating it, I reckon.
Yeah, I solved the crime. Well, the version of me in the book.
Everybody here has some kind of creative outlet. Blogging, speaking here is a creative outlet, and editing here is a creative outlet. People are into their music. People are musicians themselves. People are everything out there. That is a representation of a normality in the world of autism, that we are looking for ways of creating and communicating in alternative ways to how the normal run of the everyday works.
I write a little thing up on Facebook on the 31st of December, and I mean, this year has been so many things. At this time last year, I couldn't have even begun to imagine things like the Autism Man song, Autism Hampshire promotional films, autistic radio podcasts, and everything else. I mean, it's been a whirlwind. One of my friends was quite concerned that I might burn out. But I've got through it, and it's been an incredible year for me, really.
Yeah, I'm going to go back, and that's because they've been coming in whilst we've been chatting. So let's see where we are with that. So we're talking about sort of, Jules has been saying, look at the collection of skills, attitude, and experience we all have collectively. He says, go fucking us, which I absolutely agree with, to be honest. Go fucking us. We're brilliant. Our stories are fucking good stories as well, Jules. Robbie says that he's not seen many of his favourite artists or bands live. And Gia has said that it's true that we all have a booking. And his best way is to communicate is through music. Yeah, because that's your thing, Robbie. You're so musical, and you've got so much talent, honestly, and so much knowledge as well, much more than I've ever had. So there you go. That's everything in the text. The only problem I would find with writing a book about my life is that it's been so fractured into so many different bits that I'd have to kind of deal with a part of my life and then move on to the next part and then the next part. So I've probably got about 50 books in me because I've been in so many different life situations that it would be difficult to try and compile them all into one thing. So it would be a kind of an on-running series of me just in my different guises over the years. And the way that I've had to change and react to life means that I've just been a different person. Every year I'm a different person.
Joe, I was actually coming home from Chicago in 2002 on a plane, and I got chatting to the woman sat next to me, and she was a big fan. I told her I was a big fan of the Stones, and she said, I'm a big fan of Aha. And we had a really long, and I mean, it was a long flight, obviously, but the conversation wasn't about the music. It was about our experiences of fans and concerts and friends and music. So, there is common ground there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the lovely things about it. I mean, music is music, and everybody has their thing, and the bits they like and don't like, and so on. But it's a really good conversation. You learn so much from other people's taste as well. I find if you speak to someone for a length of time and they can give you ideas of where they are, it doesn't really matter if you end up not being into it or not. But being able to experiment with music and see what kind of gets to you and what makes you feel good is a really positive thing.
One idea about the structure of any of the books that you guys have described, all three of you, Lucy, DR, and Robbie, is not to think about the whole, but just to write vignettes, sort of, I call them underfoot in the whatever business, but they can be about your life. Like Lucy, underfoot in medical world, underfoot in the music world, because you are a chameleon, but you're just you. And the through line is the way you observe things. I said this once in an email, I think it was an email to Ray, because he was saying on one of our weekends about working in the book business, which really is also, like this, very specialized and fascinating. And one of my favorite books was a book like that. I can't remember what it was called, but something Charing Cross Road. And it was letters between a woman in, I think, America, to a person who worked in a specialty bookstore on Charing Cross Road. And she was saying, do you have this book? And he was answering. And then suddenly little things would slip in.
But Robbie, surely the real benefit, the artistic intention and the execution, the actually putting your fucking words out there is the biggest part of this. It actually doesn't matter a fuck if anybody comments in any positive or negative way. That is the most minor part of this. You publicly saying and ordering your thoughts and making them communicable in that way is in itself an artistic act and part of you being an artist. Whether there is an audience for it or a critical audience for it surely is irrelevant. The art is the fucking art.
When I did the student film, the supervisor at the university said it wasn't good enough to be shown. And when it was posted on on YouTube, I think it had 13 views after a couple of weeks. And it's not just a matter. Sometimes, if you want people to hear things and see things, it's no point just sticking it somewhere and forgetting about it. You have to promote it. And so my 6 years experience in marketing, and I pushed that film everywhere I could. And the last time I looked, it had 630 odd views. And I think Jules said that the introducing podcast that we did together was quite well subscribed to. And I mean, again, I was promoting it everywhere I could. You know, you have to go on music Facebook pages. And I mean, I went across autistic Facebook pages, then all my contacts on LinkedIn and things like that. I pushed things as best as I could. But ultimately, I was concerned that it was about, I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about us. I wanted the whole thing to be about autism. And just on another quick thing, I sent some poems I wrote to a publisher because I'd shown them to some people and they said they were good. And I was really, not long after, I got really uncomfortable because I thought, supposing they publish this, what am I going to be getting myself into if they publish it and say they want me to do things? I mean, at the time, I couldn't have done the podcast that I'm doing now. I wouldn't have been able to speak.
Bobby, I think if one person commented, that means that at least 9 other people might have wanted to and were afraid to. And some of the very best music, art, anything, books, poems, but movies are little indie gems. And at one magazine I worked at, one of the owners said about a film, he said, "Oh, look, it's a film you and 7 other people would like." And I knew it was probably good.
Yeah, I mean, you look at things like the Shawshank Redemption. That film just didn't really do anything when it was released. Now it's considered a classic, and there are so many films. I mean, I'm always talking to people about films, cult films. They're fantastic.
It even works here on Autistic Radio. There are a couple of podcasts that we made that I was absolutely thrilled to be publishing because they had really come together really nicely, and they did fuck all when they first went out, you know. But over a period of time, they got found, and they are, you know, some of the most listened to, but for a very long time. So when you put your art out there, Robbie, that is the workings for the next piece of art. It's the workings for the thing that creates the thing that people are going to comment on or see or feel in tune with enough to share around. Things find their time, but also whatever you put out there is a progression towards something that finds its niche, if you know what I mean. What that led to was your voice tonight being recorded, edited up, and then being listened to on all of the continents of this fucking globe, where anybody is English except Antarctica. So everything you have done in the past that you were banging your head against has led to a point where people hear you say the things that are most important to you clearly out there right now on Autistic Radio.
And that's how I got here. I listened to whatever I could find for a year, and then I listened to as many episodes as I could of you all talking. But it took me a long time, and then I listened to it live, made a comment, and came here. So yeah, I heard your voice, and I didn't say anything about it, Robbie. But yeah, however you express yourself is valuable. And writing in itself, even if you put it in a drawer, they say is valuable, but you have a lot to share.
Yeah, I mean, I shared the film here and the song, and with the Autistic Radio Facebook page. And then I was asked to do an introducing, and then I was invited to keep contributing, and that's where I am.
I think talking here has been a great inspiration for the things that I write as well, because it's really nice to hear other people's opinions on here, on this on autistic radio. It's good to hear other people's experiences. It's good to just keep on plowing on. And if you're writing, don't force it. It's going to happen. You just got to kind of maintain that thing in you. If you want to write. If nobody reads it, fine. But eventually, it'll get heard somewhere.
As long as we've all got a project, can't leave the 444 without reminding people about radio days. The 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th December 2025. We have an open backstage area. So somebody will be in that backstage area from the team from 3 o'clock in the afternoon all the way through for 4 hours. There won't be any cameras on. There'll be text, and people can add their voice if they wish, or they can just be co-present with other people whilst what we're doing in other studios happens in the background. Feel free to make your first step towards the group here by dropping in for any of those sessions during the 4 days of radio days backstage here. You'll be very welcome.
Yes, and that's where we are right now. All the way through radio days, there's a link to find other autistic people and speak with them. I know that there's somebody right there, right now, who I'll be speaking with in a moment, that has had a bit of a tough time. And if that's the same for you, then feel free to come and join us and talk with other autistic people in an environment that we have done everything we can as autistic people to make a gradual slope to join in with, called Backstage. You can get into Backstage from our website, from posts on social media, without signing up to us. We felt that not having to sign up was important for us as autistic people. Not having to commit to anything, not having to go through any hoops or any impediments. So to join in on Backstage when we are there, which at the moment is 4:44 every Sunday Greenwich Mean Time, all you need to do is click on a link. And when you click on that link, you're not thrust into the centre of the room, or there's nobody to say, oh yes, come in, let's put a spotlight on you. None of that happens. You can see what other people are texting in the private chat. You can hear what some people are using their voices to say. And if you decide, you might want to add or respond to any of that chat. But it's perfectly valid as an autistic person to hang out and lurk. Lurking was one of the initial parts of the internet. Having chat rooms where you lurked in text. It's the way we also work as autistic people in some respects, isn't it? Well, it works for me anyway. Observing and seeing things before I commit to them, and also not wanting to have to commit to anything, having things as a drop-in where there's no expectation on me, is also quite important. So the drop-in is here all the way 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th during radio days between Christmas and New Year. The flat spot. I'm also here playing some live out to the various different social media sites as an example of what we do here at Autistic Radio. One of the byproducts of getting together and networking and talking about our stuff is that some of us want to platform it and put it out there as podcasts and as live broadcasts. there's something else that's important, and that's the way we run ourselves, because we have a meeting to which everybody is invited every week, and then we make that meeting available for other people to listen to. So you can even lurk in on the way we organise ourselves. That openness, I think, is something that means that the whole thing works, because we are all very different and we need an easy way to communicate the way we're going as we organise our own charity here. There's a sticking point in a lot of people's minds with the idea of charity, because that has a whiff of white saviorism about it. But all of the trustees of our charity are autistic themselves. All of the advisors to the charity are autistic themselves. Our co-productions with other organisations are done on eye-to-eye level. It's working for us. I'm going to play our last meeting so you get an idea of how things work.
Listeners and supporters. That brings in about £2,000 a year, which is enough to cover all of our basic costs. This source of income has been constant since we started, and it looks to me as though we have a long-term future. Additional to that, this year we received expenses and conference fees from 3 large conferences. We're not expecting that to be a future source of income next year particularly, so it's not something we rely on, but it's something that's helped. We also have the ongoing investment that we have from our property rentals. We have 2 properties leased to us that we sublet out, and they are covering themselves, but there's capacity there to earn more in the future because the 2 properties are underutilised. So going forward, there's an increase in our income expected, if not during 26, 27 onwards. We also now have the complete income coming from commercial sponsors for the company that we organise. We have a non-for-profit company, and we have up to 500 commercial donors that are making contributions to us. And that's a business that has been slotted into our portfolio that's worked for many years. So we can see that going into the future to be a useful and increasing source of income for us. There was also a donation as a grant from Scottish Autism this year, £2,500, which is we've increased it ourselves from our own funds, and that has enabled us during this year to increase the number of home studios that we have already lent out, and also here at head office to be lent out. So financially going forward, we're very solvent, we're very independent, and we have the future looking as though we're going to flourish and increase our activities. A second item is my membership of the 400k fund. As people know that I have declared my separate interests, there's a fund of mostly autistic business people who have pledged £400,000 per year for co-productions with associations that meet the criteria that have been laid down. Unfortunately, even though the fund has been available for 2 years, there hasn't been a scheme that meets the criteria of equity and communication yet. But going forward into 2026, it looks as though that fund will increase to £500,000 this year. We're not expecting to qualify for that fund ourselves because we do not have a partner in the conventional autism professional world. Moving on from finances, 2026 is a consolidation year for us. What we do in providing services here at Autistic Radio has developed into our backstage area, and we're intending to develop that during 2026 to make it a constant availability so that people can come and speak to other autistic people on a regular basis and they know we'll always be there. So it's an extension of the 444 that will be happening at the weekends, and we'll look at that and develop that during 2026. How's everybody feeling about the year gone and the year ahead?
I feel that it's went very well. It's had its ups and downs, but it's been mostly progressive. And appreciate your work, Jules, on all those matters, particularly the financial matters. It's very much appreciated, and your expertise is, is taken on board and appreciated, and I say thanks for that. But it's good that there's a pathway, and there always has been a pathway. It's not just like big dreams and just willy-nilly stuff. This is like been done properly, a lot of hard work been put into it, and there's a pathway and potential that can come from this, and I'm very looking forward to the future. Thanks, Jules.
I'm pleased with the engagement possibilities, and I'm expanding into the next year. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really add any more to what everybody else has said. I think it's been a really interesting year, and I've really enjoyed all the different collaborations and things that we've done in the time. I've also enjoyed seeing people finding us and being part of the conversation. Really, really, really valuable because it's given us all a kind of a bigger worldview. But yes, thanks for your efforts, Jules, this year.
Well, I thank people for their words there, but it's all down to us. It all comes from us. It's autistic people creating their own charity, their own services, their own communication method, their own networking. And hopefully during this year, we will build more professional associations, more than we've built this year, so that we get included.
Pioneers to a certain extent.
We speak our words, we listen.
We speak our words, we listen.
We speak our words. We listen.
We speak our words, we listen.